Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mariam and I am no longer an international student. That used to be my intro, but not anymore. On this channel, I share videos to help new immigrants and international students thrive in Canada. On today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I got band 11 in my CELPIP examination. I'm going to be breaking down exactly what I did, the resources that I used, and my best tips for practicing for listening, reading, speaking, and the writing modules of the exam. Let's dive in. Sometime last year, a new policy came into place for international students to write English tests as part of the requirement for them to apply for postgraduate work permits, right? So I just completed my studies in Canada and I had to prepare for an English test. And then I chose the CELPIP exam as the English test for my PGWP application. CELPIP stands for the Canadian English Proficiency Index Program. One of the English tests approved by IRCC for things like postgraduate work permit, permanent residency application. For most things, immigration, work, PGWP, permanent residency, typically write the CELPIP General. I wrote the CELPIP General exam, and there are 4 components to this exam, and all of them are marked as scored out of 12. I gave myself a few weeks to prepare. So I started preparing for the exam after I registered. I registered and picked a date. That's how my mind works. I have to be working towards something, right? To take it seriously when it comes to this type of exams. So I picked a date, I registered for the exam, made my payment, and then I started to prepare. So the first thing I'm going to advise is for you to take your time and understand the structure of the exam. Understand what the examiners are looking for in your responses and in your answers, in your audio, in terms of speaking, and then understand the timing of each of these sections. That's what I did from the CELPIP website. They have webinars on the website that will tell you about each of the exam. So I did that first. In the first few days of practicing for this exam, that's what I did, right? Before I started to practice for each module. In the listening module, I used the practice tests on the CELPIP official website. So there are several practice tests that you can use for as you prepare for your exam. So that's what I did. I didn't just listen to words. I listened to identify keywords, to understand tone when the speaker is trying to make a suggestion or give opinions. I listened to repeated words, repeated conversations, and to say that, okay, there might be a question here, right? So that's what I did. We get familiar with the examination style accents, like, because on the exam day, the time moves really fast and they're not going to replay a question that has been played before. So I did that. Then I focused on listening actively, not just casually. I'll pause and ask myself, what was the speaker trying to convey in this question? Are there other underlying meanings that there could have been in the question? So I did that, listened, and then I answered the questions that are in the practice test. Then I'll go back and check my answers against what I have written. I'll go back and check the answers that have been provided on the website to see where I missed certain points. So that's what I did. Like, you read the test, don't panic. If you miss something, just move on, because while you're trying to think about, I might have missed something, you can miss 5 more questions in the shortest possible time. It moves really fast. Like, if you're reading a passage for you and you are supposed to get questions from that, if you missed the previous question, move on to the next one, because it's almost unrealistic for you not to miss anything in a listening test. So just don't panic when you miss anything. Just keep moving. That's one tip that you must remember as you prepare for this exam. The next session is reading. This session is about how well you can scan and find information quickly in a text. Here's what I did. I read articles, I read opinion pieces. They are short, but they teach you how to understand tone and intent in a text, right? And you read between the lines. Of course, not read word by word. You skim. For you to maximize the time you have for reading, you need to skim, scan, and go straight to the questions. You don't have all the time to read word for word and come back. So that's what you do. I use the free CELPIP mock exams on the website as well. That's where I based most of my preparation. My resources, I got them from there. Then a couple of other tips I got from YouTube videos as well. I practiced time reading so I could get used to managing time. The reading test, I find that it took a lot of time, because you're trying to, sometimes you read a question, you read it back again, and then you think that the answer is different. But you just try to move as quickly as possible. For me, I spent a lot of time practicing my reading, because I found that was the one that was proving a bit more difficult than other modules. So you find your strengths. The reading exam wasn't so much of a strength, but I still got a 10 from it because I put a lot of time practicing the reading test. The next module is the writing module. My highest score was in the writing module. I really enjoyed doing the writing task. In the writing module, you write an email and a survey opinion. I had a very clear structure. I had the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. For the email, I made sure there was a greeting, clear paragraphs, and a polite tone, just the way you would write in real life situations. That's what the Canadian English test is trying to test: your everyday conversation, how you speak to people, how you write to people. That's what I did. I had the structure. For the opinion task, I practiced giving strong, clear opinion backed up by examples, and I make sure that I wasn't saying I agree or yes or no. I made sure that there were examples, and I used words that are specific to the questions. For instance, I think one of my questions was asking about buildings and some other social issues. I made sure that some of the words I used are related to the issue that we were talking about. So that's what I did. If you're not really sure of your writing in terms of everyday writing, while you're practicing, you can give it to your friend, your family member, your mentor to read them through and go through them to see where you can improve with your vocabulary, your grammar, your punctuation. In fact, your vocabulary, your grammar, your punctuation has to be right. You need to know where to put a period. You need to know where to put a comma. You need to know if you're going to use inverted commas. So you need to take note of those as well. Don't forget that. And the paragraphing as well, it has to be clear. They should be able to identify that each paragraph is starting or talking about a different idea. So that's another thing you need to do for your writing. Finally is the speaking module. For me, this is probably the most stressful one for a lot of people, but guess what? This is where you can shine. So it's not about having a perfect accent. It's about being clear, confident, and organized in your thoughts, in how you respond to the questions, in the type of vocabulary you use, in your grammar, your tenses, your sentences. But it's not about like having the Canadian accent, right? So relax. Speak with a smile on your face, because I find that it helps your tone when you're smiling while you're answering the questions. And just answer the questions. Because you've practiced, you have an idea of all the questions, right? So it is important that you practice the speaking. And for each question and the speaking, try to create a mental structure of a quick introduction, the main thing you're going to talk about, one example or one story, and then a conclusion. So you can have a structure. On the exam day, you have pen and paper to help you take notes, and after the exam, you give it back to the examiners. If you need extra paper, raise your hand. They'll provide papers for you. But here, have a structure to each question. I practiced the CELPIP on the CELPIP website using the official samples that were there. I recorded myself answering the questions. I'll play it back and see where I said things like and I worked on cutting them out or reducing them to the barest minimum. I practiced a couple of times, and every time I practiced, I recorded myself so I can play back and listen to where I made mistakes, where I didn't use the right word. You don't need big words. You just need to sound clear and natural in your speaking tests. Okay? Some advice for test day. So test day can be overwhelming, but these are some of the things that I did that helped me to be calm before my exam started. So I arrived early. I think I was there about 40 or 45 minutes, or even 1 hour before the exam, about that time. But at least I knew I was there 45 minutes before the exam, because I didn't want any delays and to become anxious on the day. You have to bring your valid ID card, your passport. Your passport for checking and registration. I didn't overthink anything. I told myself, Mariam, you've done your best, you've practiced, you've given it all you've got. Now this is the time, do your part. Just trust your preparation. And once the exam begins, you cannot pause it. So once your computer comes on, after your instructions and everything, you can't pause it. So make sure you go to the restroom so that you don't have to stand up to take a bathroom. You go to the washroom before the exam starts so that you don't lose time taking breaks, right? On the test day, I didn't focus on anybody. I stayed calm. I focused on myself, took one question at a time, no panicking, because once you start panicking and being anxious, you forget certain things. You forget the things that you've studied, you forget your preparation. That's how I got a band 11 on my CELPIP exam. I hope you found these tips helpful. If you're preparing to write the CELPIP exam, please leave a comment down below. I'll be cheering you on, and I wish you the best. I wish you a band 12 in your exam. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.